Welcome back, everyone, to the seasonal wrap-up show. We're doing spring 2022 now. If you're not familiar with how I do this stuff, you can go back and watch all my previous seasons of stuff. There's a ton of episodes you can binge to hear my thoughts about seasonal anime. But I am going to make a slight adjustment for this particular season. Normally, what I do is I throw everything into a randomizer, except for one show that I know that I'm going to love or just really like, and I save that show for the very end. But because the spring season has so many fucking bangers in it, I can't exactly pick from all the shows that I know I'm going to really like. Like whether they're sequels to shows I really like, other additions to franchises I really like, or just really cool new shows. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to do like a half random, half planned thing. So every like first 5 or 6 shows is going to be random. And then I'm going to go down this line of shows here starting with number 33. So we got Love Live Nijigasaki Season 2. We got Pokemon Hisuian Snow. Machikado Season 2. Spy Family, Healer Girl, and Kaguya-sama Season 3 all the way at the very end. So, and in between all of those, there's going to be 5 to 6-ish of these 32 shows here. Hopefully, I didn't fuck up this time and they're all actually available to watch at the moment. This one's questionable, because I haven't heard anything about it. But it is also a Disney Plus one, so who knows what the fuck they're doing with it. I will check in with that later. But, in any case, it's time to go to the randomizer. Alright. So, we've got 32 shows to pick from. Let's see what the first show is. 3, of course it's a movie that I haven't downloaded yet. Summer Ghost. Alright. I'm gonna head over to the cat site and then we'll see how it goes. Alright, I just watched Summer Ghost, which was a much shorter movie than I was expecting. It was only 35 or 39 minutes. But to be honest, I still think I could have done without it. Was not a particularly big fan of this one. For 2 reasons. One, it just felt kind of underdeveloped overall, which is probably due in part to the time. The runtime. I definitely think this could have worked a lot better as a feature film with more plot lines in it, with more subplots in it, or at least more scenarios, I guess would be a better word. Not more subplots, because the subplots that it has are fine. The 3 main characters all have their issues that they need to work through. That part's fine, but this felt like a get in, get out kind of movie, and it ended up just not leaving an impression on me at all as a result. Well, not at all. There are a couple things I liked. Mostly on the visual end, had some pretty cool shots, and the color palette was really nice. At the very least, I will say this director has a vision. I'll give it that much. So I liked that. But the story just felt a little too, not shallow. Has the wrong connotation to it, but I guess strictly speaking, it is a little shallow in that it could have had a little bit more depth to it. A little bit more depth to the characterization, to the theming of the story. I did like the theme that it had, where it's like sort of bridging the gap between, well, not even like, it's kind of mentally bridging the gap between life and death, sort of. It's a cool concept. I just wish it did more with it. And even though I liked I don't even know if I would say I liked the directing. I would say the directing had some good ideas, but also, this is still not a visually strong film. More specifically, I should say this is not a strongly animated film. There's definitely a lot of keyframes missing. Not keyframes. No, not keyframes. There's a lot of in-between frames missing from this film that definitely could have made it look a lot better. To be fair, this was a pretty small team, as far as I know, that worked on this. And it seemed like a totally independent project. I had no clue who the director was, or the scriptwriter was, or the composer was before this film. I'd never heard of the studio before this film. So this just seems like a totally independent project. It's an indie anime, I guess you could say, as far as I know. So, I mean, props to them for making it, but it definitely shows that it's an indie anime in a lot of ways. The facial expressions definitely needed a lot more work. And again, needed more in-between frames. A lot of times it felt very jagged. The movement felt very jagged a lot of the times. And a lot of the walk cycles just looked kind of jank. There's also some editing issues that popped up every now and then where it felt like it skipped a shot or two when it moved from one shot to another. Like it skipped like a preparatory shot or something. And so it felt a little jarring there. I'm not going to say well, yeah. I'm trying... I don't know why I'm trying so hard to not be mean to this one. I mean, I know why. It's because it's an indie anime, and I don't want to just completely shit on it for it being what it is. But I also don't think... I'm also pretty sure I don't like it. And I wouldn't exactly recommend it. I'm sure this concept has been done better elsewhere. So, I guess if you have any suggestions on similar concepts that you think were accomplished better, let me know in the comments, I guess. But that's all I have to say about Summer Ghost. Could have been better. Definitely could have been better. Alright, Summer Ghost is done. Unfortunately, I gotta put it all the way at the bottom here. We're gonna give that a decent 4. Could have been better. Could have been a lot better. Anyway, let's move on. Oh, I also realized that Love All Play is 2 cores, so I took that out of the lineup for this one. So we're down to... We're going to crank this down twice, then brings us down to 30 shows, right? Yep, 30 plus the 6 at the end. Let's see what we get next. 5. Is this another movie? Probably not. Kodama Kawashiri Kodama Dayo. I think this is a weird looking cartoony one. Let's see what it is. Well, I gotta admit, that was definitely a first for me, in that this is the first anime I've seen where the OP is longer than the actual episode. So, that was weird. In total, the episode is 2.5 minutes, and normally with stuff like that, you get like a 20 or 30 second OP, but this one goes the full 90 seconds. So, the OP takes up 60% of the episode. So that was weird. But yeah, this one kind of sucks. It's not funny. It's got it's very, very low staff, I guess you could call it. There's really not any animation outside of the OP, and it's got it's one of those deliberately ugly kind of anime too. Don't let the OP fool you with its actually decent animation. The rest of the show looks like shit. And it's not particularly funny. So we're gonna move on. Alright, we're gonna strike this from the list. And we're gonna move on. See what's next. What do we got? 11. Trapped in a Dating Sim. This is the one that had the really terrible key visual, right? I think that's what it is.
Well, let's see how it turns out.
Alright, I watched about 8.5 minutes of Trapped in a Dating Sim, and I fucking hated it. That was absolutely awful. I hate it. The protagonist is the most miserable, annoying motherfucker I've seen in a very long time in terms of anime protagonists. This dude fucking sucks and drains the life out of me the more I listen to him. I want nothing more to do with him. The show also looks pretty ass. Not as bad as the key visual or as the OP might suggest. The OP's also pretty awful, but it's still pretty fucking bad. Really weak character designs, bad compositing, generally not very pleasant to look at, and it doesn't really have any particular standout elements either. And it seems to loathe the concept of otome games, like, on the whole. So, fuck that, I guess. This was just a miserable watch, and I only watched like 8.5 minutes of it. It was painful. I did not like... It's been a while since I've been this annoyed by a bad piece of media. I am... let's fucking move on, Jesus. Oh, I almost forgot. That's right, baby. The isekai are back. I want to die.
Alright, strike this god-awful thing from the list. Let's move on. What is next? 5 again. Requiem of the Rose King. This is a shoujo series, if I recall correctly, and it's 2 core, so might be in it for a very long time or not very long at all. Let's give it a go.
Alright, I just watched all of Requiem for the Rose King, all 24 episodes of that, and I'm pretty sure I liked it overall, but for very specific reasons that, admittedly, I don't think a lot of people are going to agree with me on. Well, not that they won't agree with my reasoning, it's just that they won't agree that they like these specific things. This show is my megaton cue for the season. The show where it ticks a very specific set of boxes on things that I am personally very attached to and love seeing in media, but isn't particularly well written or well animated, etc. in certain ways. Right off the bat, I will admit, even without reading the source material, I can tell this is incredibly rushed. Like, there's 17 volumes of the manga, and it goes through all of it in 24 episodes. So that's like... what, that's like 75% of a volume per episode, which is insane. That's insanely fast. And yet, on the other hand, I think the brisk pacing of it made it as bingeable as it was. Like, this is a fast fucking show. Shit is constantly happening every single second. There is no downtime. So, on the one hand, that makes it super bingeable and just really captivating, but on the other hand, it doesn't leave a lot of room for, like, for most moments to really leave an impression on you in terms of story. It does have occasionally some very striking visuals. This is a very minimalist kind of show. A lot of still frames. Basically, none of the battles except for the very end are animated as you would animate an action scene. Very bare bones, but I will admit the imagery that it employs throughout, which is probably pulled directly from the manga, but even still, the imagery employed throughout of like thorns and wings and anything that has to do with the crown is impressive. So I think that makes up for a lot of its animation and narrative shortcomings. It's just, it's not often, but occasionally it is very striking to look at. But the real reason why this show just hit some perfect chords with me, first and foremost, it's Shakespeare. This is literally like the first core is Henry VI, and then the second half is Richard III. It's literally just that, but with anime and some weird anime twists thrown in. Now, I haven't read Henry VI, so all of that was completely new, but I have read Richard III. It's been a long time, but I have read it. Though, to be honest, you don't really need to read it to understand the show, because there's a lot of departures from it, at least from what I remember. Like, they do have, like, the second half starts with, like, the iconic opening of Richard III, now is the winter of our discontent. They do throw that in there, but they completely cut the most famous line from this one, which is, my horse, my kingdom for a horse. And the reason for that is because the Richard in this anime has completely departed from the Richard of Shakespeare's play by the end of this anime. And so that line no longer makes sense with this anime, so it makes sense why they cut it, but just, I would not call this a faithful adaptation of Shakespeare. It has the general plot points, as far as I can remember, or even just general sense of where the story goes, but it animeifies the shit out of this. It animes the shit out of this, which is cool. And it leads to some really interesting, like, I really loved Richard as a character. He is just so immensely compelling in his desire, how his desires shift throughout the course of the series, the direction of his focus, and all of that. And also, this Richard is intersex. I think that's the correct term. No, I'm not exactly sure. He has both bits. But he identifies as a man. That is very plainly obvious in the anime. He identifies as a man. But he's got everything. So, really interesting take on this character, and it leads to some really interesting situations. In terms of, like, ideas like love and desire and his place in the world. And also leads to some real hot drama. This is a super, super melodramatic show. I am here for it. I'll be honest, if you liked the first 19 episodes of Darling in the Franxx, you will like this show, I think. Which I liked those first 19-ish episodes before the weird alien shit kicked in. But yeah, this is a hot shoujo drama, and I am here for it. I've made a fucking video about this, about where all the good shoujo's been at. And this is a very true to form shoujo series. It was actually the manga was written by the author of a shoujo manga that I actually read like 5 or 6 volumes of. It's Aya Kano is the Aya Kano is the author. And they wrote Otomen, which is I think I read about a third of that series, I think, before I got kind of, it was a little too slow for my liking, but I really liked the concept of it. I would recommend at least giving that a shot. If not for the fact that this series was 17 volumes long, and that's a lot of money for me to spend because I don't read manga digitally, I only do it physically, I would definitely jump into the manga for this as well. Honestly, I would recommend the manga for this, just solely based on the anime. If you don't like the anime, check out the manga. I'm just going to give that a blind recommendation because I understand that this adaptation was rushed to hell and back, and it is not pleasing to look at most of the time. I'm not only going to say that. I'm not going to say that it's not pleasing. It's not impressive to look at. Let's put it that way. It is not impressive to look at. But if you really like that fast-paced, constant drama, English nobles fighting over the throne and fighting over relationships, if that's your game, you're going to like this show. I guarantee it. If you're in it for the weird gender stuff, I think it pulls it off pretty well. There is a lot of sus, problematic stuff in it as well, but I think that just goes along with the time period. And honestly, it's kind of hot. Not super detailed with anything. It's not ecchi by any stretch of the imagination. It's fairly tame, but I will say, some of this shit is pretty hot. But I guess aside from that, just really strong cast of characters overall. Again, I mean, they're based on fucking Shakespeare characters, so of course they're going to be solid. I love Shakespeare. I really do. I need to read more Shakespeare. I need to reread this, because I had a fucking blast with this when I read it the first time. Read it in college for a Shakespeare class. But, yeah, I mean, all the characters are super solid. The Duke of Buckingham, probably aside from Richard, easily the best character in the show, just for how immediately striking and cool he is when he shows up, and then just how complex he gets with his desires as the show goes on. Anne, who is basically ends up as Richard's wife and queen at some point in the show. She's got some pretty intense fucking baggage that she has to work through. The one like story, well, there's a couple story points I regret about it, but the one story point that I kind of regret about this show is that Richard never truly comes out to her and presents himself to her as who he truly is, like his body, the secret of his body. I kind of wish we had gotten that. Just like they still have a really great character resolution for her at the end between her and Richard, but I kind of wish that she had to be presented with that idea and see how she would react to that. But man, I liked this show. Like, even when it started to piss me off, or even when it got kind of boring, it was just quick-paced, not incompetent. It's not impressive, again, in terms of production, except for the moments of, like, really striking imagery. But it's not incompetent. It's not poorly animated. It's just not animated most of the time. This show, along with a lot of other stuff like Megaton Q and just a lot of other stuff where there's very clearly not a large audience for this, and I can easily see why most people don't like it, honestly just makes me appreciate it more. Because before, like a couple years ago, this is a show where if someone liked it, I would say that they had trash taste for liking it. Because it's a melodramatic, edgy shoujo romance with a bunch of cute boys in it. If you want to be derogatory about it, that's what it is. But now that I can see the specific pinpoints of what I like about this show, I'm just done with that phrase. I'm done with the phrase trash taste. I've always been done with the phrase guilty pleasure, but anything in that realm of criticism, I'm just completely done with. Because there is always something really cool to dig into. I'm not going to deny the criticisms of this show. I've criticized this show plenty of times in this video so far. But this show brought me joy. This show sparked joy. And I'm very glad I watched it. Not a favorite by a long shot, but if you like the things that I've been raving about in this video, give this show a shot.
Alright, Requiem for the Rose King is finished, and oh, you know what? Yeah, the more I think about it, the more I like it. So we're gonna put it right above the other kinda gay show, kinda gay action show. We're gonna give it a light 7. I enjoyed that way more than I thought I would. Now, let's move on. Who is next? What do we get next? 14. The greatest demon lord is reborn as a typical nobody. Okay, I've heard literally nothing about this show. Let's give it a shot.
Oh my fucking god, why? Okay. I made about 2.5 minutes into this show. What a fucking infuriating way to fucking write. Man, I was in such a good mood after watching the fucking edgy Shakespeare shoujo thing. I was in such a good mood. And then this worthless piece of trash wanders its way onto my screen. There is a certain class of... Well, this is technically not an isekai. Although he is reincarnated at some point, but he seems to be reincarnated into the same world that he already was. So, it's got the trappings of isekai without it being an isekai. I'm sure there's a specific word for this that I don't know. I'll probably ask Joe from Pause and Select later. Because there's a certain brand of fantasy anime, isekai anime, all this shit that just gives up on explaining itself at some point. Like, the first, 40 seconds of the show is, I am the demon lord, I am ruling over everything, and no one can defeat me, and I'm kind of bored, and now I want to reincarnate. And then we get a title card, and then it cuts to just him being a 10-year-old somewhere else. No info on how he did it. Like, did he just kill himself? Did he just die? I assume he killed himself, but why not show that? Like, I hate... Just smash cut to... I'm in my new life now, and then it starts going through the shitty modern fantasy anime checklist of fucking game mechanics and stats and spells and all this fucking bullshit that I do not care about in any capacity whatsoever. And I struggle to understand how anybody else cares about it, because they don't spend any time on it. They just here's the thing, here's the thing, here's the thing, here's the thing, and go. Ugh. And then, the scene that, just made me, throw my phone across the room was, it's like he's celebrating his 10th birthday, and then his parents are like, well, you're 10 years old now, or it's the time when you're gonna start rebelling against your parents, you need to think about your future. I'm like, what is he, a fucking Pokemon trainer? You kick him out at the age of 10? What the fuck? Oh. Let's move on.
Okay. Get rid of this shit. Don't need that. Let's move on. What do we get next? Let's see. Come on, crank it down. 14 again. RPG Real Estate. Okay. Let's give it a go.
Alright, I watched 2 episodes of RPG Real Estate. It's a totally average slice of life fantasy, cute girls doing cute things series. Basically, cute girls work at a real estate company and help different fantasy characters move into different homes. It's totally fine. I don't really have any general complaints aside. Well, I do, but I'm just not interested in it. It's just kind of boring for the most part. I do like how they approach the real estate side of it, and there's just these kind of interesting little problems that have to be solved for different races and different real types of real estate, etc. But it's just not super engaging, I guess. Character designs are fine. They're not offensive in any way, or not horribly boring in any way. Gets a little fan service heavy, which was surprising. It's not particularly good fan service though, so can't really call that a positive. And the blue-haired character, Fa, is super annoying most of the time, so didn't particularly care for her. I would probably if I finished this would just be like a light 5, probably, somewhere around there, maybe, or a strong 4. I don't feel particularly strong about this one. If the premise of cute girls running a real estate company in a fantasy world sounds interesting to you, give it a shot, I guess. But I don't really have much else to say about it.
Alright, RPG Real Estate is off the list. And I believe that took us through like 6 shows now. So yeah, we're down to 25 aside from these last 6. So it's time to start dipping into some of this stuff down here. Starting with this one right here, we're going to watch Pokemon Hisuian Snow.
Alright, I just watched all of Pokemon Hisuian Snow, and that was pretty fun. Pretty fun. I think I built up my expectations a little too much, because it was super basic, straightforward story, but yeah, super fun. It's only 3 episodes that total about a half hour in total, and it was really interesting to see. I haven't played Pokemon Arceus yet, so I don't really know the full story of this world, but it's, from what I've gathered from this from these specials, it's basically a pre-Pokemon society, or I should say it's a society pre-integration of Pokemon into that society, where humans and Pokemon still live separately from each other and are very wary of each other. And it's really interesting to see that in Pokemon, because it's extremely rare for that. Like, I think there's only been like a couple episodes of the anime that even experimented with that at all. And so seeing like the early foundations of humans and Pokemon coming together was pretty fun. Super straightforward story. The young boy meets Pokemon in the forest and they become friends. And then he comes back a couple years later and meets him again while going through some Pokemon hijinks. Really the big standout of these, though, is, as usual, the animation. Whenever we get these short Pokemon entries like Twilight Wings or Poketoons or Evolutions, it's usually like a great chance for the animation teams to really knock it out of the park. And this is by fucking Wit Studios, so they got some fucking chops to it. The background art is just so incredibly gorgeous to look at, just very fairly unique for a Pokemon setting. This very snowy area, we don't get to see a whole lot of that from Pokemon. Just the animation in general is so fucking solid. One of the big standouts to me was how animalistically they made the Pokemon look in certain shots, especially in episode 3 when we got this Garchomp just charging right towards the camera, and it looks like a terrifying beast that is about to destroy you. And they really conveyed that really well through the animation. Yeah, this is just the whole vibe of this was a really pleasant and fun watch. There were, I guess, 1 or 2 weird edits, weird cuts to certain shots that didn't flow quite as well as they could have, but really that's only my only complaint about this. Yeah, this is just a solid half hour of fun Pokemon stuff with really good animation. makes me want to play Arceus. I'll say that much. Yeah, honestly, I think I might have built up my expectations a little too much for this one because I was hoping I would have more to say about it, but it's just a fun little one-off special of 3 episodes. So yeah, if you're into Pokemon, you've probably already watched them already, but if you haven't, definitely give them a shot, because it's definitely a new take on Pokemon that I haven't seen yet. Yeah, I don't know why I'm trying to pad this out. Let's just go to the list.
Alright. Hisuian Snow is done. And we're going to put it right here. And it's going to get a decent 7. Good Pokemon fun.